I very loosely remember this. It's been a little bit. I watched it live, and then I think the day after. It's not refreshing. It's kind of unlucky. It's not updating the Discord properly. Streamer mode.
Starting out here on the University, Sombra is going to be in play, and it's going to be very ground and pound coming out here from Envy.
Yeah, they are running that quasi-goats comp.
Okay, so what I loosely remember here is Fusion looks to play up here with their Ana Zen, and then look to like play around. Like you can have like, so it's basically like you play your Ana Zen up here, and then they get free reign to like look out these windows like this, and it's basically like you can heal anywhere on the map. The problem that this comp has is if you're playing against Envy and they're able to like rotate the Rein around on the high ground, then you're going to be forced off and then you're going to have to play a more awkward angle. But when you're playing up here, you basically stick the Ana and the Zen in this window, and if the Rein comp at all is playing in anywhere in this vicinity, the monkey can basically just be standing at the door, bubble down. He'll be getting pocketed by both of them, and then he can play like mega aggressively. So they can play around the health kits down here with the Sombra, so they get extra room. You can potentially put the health kit back here as well, so the Ana and Zen can play like in a safer spot. But this is exactly the setup they want, given the comp they have. Basically, what Envy wants to do is just rotate, make this rotate around. Like, they don't want to be sitting in this area. Sure, it might be okay for them, but they want to be forcing this Ana Zen back.
That's going to allow Fusion University try to pick where they want to try and go in with this dive. They are peeking at every single door, while Envy are just waiting for the point to unlock, and then they'll make their way on out. They're actually trying to jump onto someone, but no, they're just waiting, trying to spot out where Zachary might be.
And now they're going to go onto the point. The point is contestable, and it's going to be up to Fusion to put some bodies on.
So I really like this. Them playing split like this. I think it's really important that they have the ground so that they don't just basically have their whole team be like here and here, because then it'd be very easy to like mitigate the heals and the amount of DPS they can do. They're doing a great job of splitting, so they have like a two-man here. Bernard is playing in like a very good position where he can shoot them in the back, so they're basically creating a crossfire. At the same time, he's able to come back and protect the backline if they need to. So positional wise right now, Fusion is in like an actual god tier position. So, and there's nothing really Envy can do given where they are. So they did good to split them up there as well. Like, that's something Envy doesn't want to do. Like, if anything, they probably want to just rotate off this point and then hope to just like push them off the high ground. So they'd look to just like take all their people and then force them back off the high ground, because they can't do anything where they're standing. They're just going to get crossfired forever. And maybe the call is made actually, but like you can see how it's kind of split. Like there's like two or three people right here, there's a person right here, a person right here. It definitely needs to be like much more focused and like grouping up so that you can actually punish who are you. You don't want to also like have like a long line dash where who are you can potentially getting resets over and over again. You just want to be a ball and rotate together and like walk with the Moira orb. It's also like playing against this Brig. The Brig does nothing. There's actually no healing the Brig does. I think he only procs the AoE healing once like 3 of his teammates are dead.
Yeah, it's just focus down the main tank, and then from there, the dominoes fall afterwards. Fusion University will take the point first. Now, Envy, throughout that time...
There actually wasn't much, like, actually any threat at all on Elk, and I think he probably could have like played, like him and Alarm probably could have walked up a little bit more with Bernard standing on the high ground, and they could have been like at full out charge right now. Like the comp is very punishing. Like even if McGravy was to go on the high ground, he'd literally get matrixed and then potentially get hacked right after. So. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the rotation that Envy wants. Envy kind of... I think this is probably their default, where they have the Sombra and they're assuming they want to play around this health kit, but they kind of split up here. There's probably a split call as to where they want to go. The correct call is definitely take all these members and push them off the high ground.
Sometimes you can do that, you can get the blade midway through, but they might not need it if Zachary is able to land a good EMP. Fusion
You see, it's basically as soon as they're like in this position to force them down, they immediately just have to rotate, and then the rest of Fusion really has to play defensively to protect them. But spend so much time rotating, you're definitely just going to allow Zachary to farm an EMP.
EMP immediately, and they just use it to get rid of the shiny. It was smart. They get the 2 pickoffs off of that, and they even get to save both the nano boost and the blade. Fusion coming out quite strong here so far.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Shiny that was caught up in it. You saw also McGravy was trying to contest the point at the same time.
So a problem I think Envy has as a team is Tailspin. It's the same problem they've always had. Tailspin has a very shallow hero pool, and in this situation, what you'd want him to pick, maybe Tracer, maybe Genji, but he isn't able to do that. Like, I don't think he can play either of them. They sometimes put him on Tracer, and it's when they look their worst. I think he is good on Hanzo. He's very good on Pharah, but in these situations, like, those aren't good picks for what they need to do. And his Brig actually isn't getting any healing done because they're basically just kiting and playing rotation heavy. And so his Brig is basically doing nothing. There's no way to like assist with the counter dive if Who Are You never dashes in and like they get to stun him. Like they're just getting crossfired by the DPS and the supports. And then Bernard and Beast Halo are just playing like longer range, so this Brig really isn't doing anything, and so he's like basically forced to pick Tracer here, but it's never optimal for Envy.
5 ultimates now, and Envy, they're building up their war chest themselves as Tailspin now swaps off from the Brigitte, will go over to Tracer to have a little bit more damage, but they're going to have less control in these fights. That means Who Are You with this blade is going to be able to just get in for free.
I mean, the issue here is that Envy is practically bankrupt, but they got Alarm early.
Where does Alarm die here?
Be able to just get in for free.
I mean, the issue here is that Envy
I think Alarm was playing. Yeah, he was trying to hide for the CMP.
Who Are You with this blade is
Okay, I see it. McGravy goes underneath, and I imagine the call was play like defensively and hide. So like Anna and Genji are playing here, so they're going to want a Nano Blade, and they're basically splitting up their team. So it's like if Zen's hiding inside the room, then they either make the choice like EMP the Zen or try to like EMP on the point, and then the Nano Blade will come from behind. And then they'll just be able to win regardless because there'll be no beat or trance to counter it. So it is an okay plan. The problem is he gets like found out and then he just gets immediately jumped on. So
is practically bankrupt, but they got Alarm early on, so even at an ult disadvantage, Fusion, if they want to hold, they're going to have to invest nearly everything here. Who Are You uses the blade, looking around, gets fired, the aid of Zachary, but not going to get too much else. The rest of Fusion, though, doing pretty well here. They do have to give up control of the point and back out, but you take a look, they haven't thrown that much into this fight here just yet. They could turn it back around, although this is
the thing that Fusion can exploit here is Team Envy just swapped their comp, and they can really abuse the fact that they have a higher ult economy, so they can use 2 ults here, even if they aren't very efficient, to kill one person, and then look to basically out ult rotate them. So like Envy will use 3 ults here, and then Fusion will use 2, but like Envy is like forced in a case where they will overcommit their ults because they need to get this to basically be a good fight for them, where they want it to be less than 80% when they cap, so they have like a little bit of wiggle room to maybe flub a fight and then like be able to come back and still win the game. So you can kind of do this mind game where you'll be like, okay, the enemy team might overcommit ults, and then we can like look to commit something, but just do it as like a bait. And I think they do this pretty well, where I feel like Envy's kind of overcommits here, and then you can look to retake once Alarm actually comes back with the trance, and basically Envy won't be able to match it.
that much into this fight here just yet. They could turn it back around, although this is weird because you're down enough that Envy can also delay for a long period of time, and Beast Halo decides, you know what, I'm going to use Primal Rage, I'm going to disrupt, they get Buds on the other side, and now Fusion can start getting some men on the point.
Beast Tailor kind of scuffs his jump there, unluckily. But they're doing positive trades, which is exactly what they want.
Shiny once again takes out Alarm, and we saw in our matchup yesterday, Fusion versus Toronto, that Alarm was a priority target coming out from Toronto. In the first 2 maps, he was consistently dying, and so it looks like Envy, that is their MO. They want to try and get him. Now, with another hack coming out onto Who Are You, it is Fusion University still able to clean up the staggers. They'll be able to flip it, but Envy were able to get 38% on the board.
Envy's in a real tough spot here. They're gonna have maybe one fight.
Yeah, Envy, there's not really a ton they can do. Did what happened to Fire's beat? I don't think he used beat properly.
Matchup yesterday, Fusion versus Toronto, that Alarm was a priority target coming out from Toronto. In the first 2 maps, he was consistently dying, and so it looks like Envy.
He uses beat in a lost fight, and then he gets EMP'd right after. So like he does bait out the EMP, but they need that beat to be able to counter the next fight, and that they can also just use it as like a baiting tool. So they can use it where he'll just play safe, and then he'll play back, so he baits Zachary into just EMPing him, or they play to poke Zachary out, and then they can speed boost in, use beat, so it won't get EMP'd. Or it'll be like a late EMP where it won't get as much effectiveness and like kill the whole shield. But yeah, the problem is like Fire can't build beat up again now with the situation they're losing in. So you have to be like usually very careful. If you're on the winning team, sometimes you can use it if you have a lot of percentage to like come back. But he's not gonna be able to like build a lot of ult charge.
Are waiting to hold on to it now because they want to see where Envy approach from, and it looks like some are taking the high ground, some are taking mid. But we have to look at Tailspin with this pulse bomb. Who does he get down to? He's trying to find the support, and they take out Elk.
Elk immediately out of the fight. Tailspin gets to save the pulse bomb. Might be throwing this on a tank if need be. Who are used on cleanup duty, but it might be too little, too late here as we see Envy getting firm control of the point. More players on it.
Waiting to see if Who Are You Blades, yeah.
Brings out the blade, grabs one, goes back the other way, makes it a 2.
So I think there was probably an overcommit here from Envy to commit onto the back line.
From, and it looks like some are taking the high ground, some are taking mid. But
It's kind of what they have to do. They changed their comp, so they're much more mobile, and they can actually punish this this Ana Zen positioning much more efficiently. So the Ana Zen actually has to rotate. Like before, it's like optimal for them to play the high ground. Now it's probably better for them to play like in this area over here or over here, and then wait for their team basically to take damage. So Zachary and Who Are You were playing in good spots where they're playing very far forward, and then Bernard and Beast Tail, I'd say, are playing in like decently good spots as well, where depending on where the supports are, so if they're playing over here, a lot of times the tanks can just walk and reset over here on the point. They don't have to reset like back with them, where I'd say that Team Envy has to like basically follow their tanks. So if they're playing very far forward, the support's got to walk up. That works in their favor here, but you're able to sometimes kite with the tanks properly, where the tanks can take damage, and Bernard would just like rotate to here rather than like giving up all of his pressure and like rotating completely back behind the point. So
we have to look at Tailspin with this pulse
they
bomb.
basically see
Who does he get down to?
where the heal darts are coming from, so they're able to jump on him.
He's trying to find the support, and they take out Elk.
But the trades here are the important thing basically to notice.
Tailspin gets to save the pulse bomb. Might be throwing this on a tank if need.
They're using Beam, and I think he's using Beam aggressively to basically do damage.
Immediately out of the fight, Tailspin gets a
You can see he isn't getting a ton of value from it. Because he's turning, he wasn't using optimally, basically. Who Are You plays to hide and then kills Fire, and then they were using the whole trance basically to keep everyone up since they don't have the Ana anymore. And so he just looked to isolate the Lucio. Once the Lucio's gone, a lot of the sustain is gone.
Who are used on cleanup duty, but it might be too little, too late here as we see Envy.
There's no beat to counter him, so they can really look to just outpace with blades, and that's something Fusion does really well, is just get a blade and then look to abuse the members who are trying to sustain the rest of the team.
Makes it a twofer, and now Fusion off the 3K from Who Are You? Make it 4, get the mech added on in for good measure. They hold.
So there wasn't really a lot Envy could do there. I think given the first comp, they had to play it much different. They had to look to win the first fight
We just hit points where
and rotate onto the high ground.
and we'll just like, okay, let's just deathmatch the flankers here in the back.
And then Fire had like a really poor beat.
So right now, we'll see if they continue to stick with this. But it is an interesting setup, especially in a meta where a lot of teams are absconding from Zen.
Yeah, and so it is the same setup coming out from Fusion University. we're still waiting for it to unlock. Envy, though, are trying to find their angle to try and get onto Fusion University. It's Fusion University who do have presence on the point. There we go. They're going to try and force down Beast Halo, but he's playing a lot more safe this time around. Backs away, gets healed up, and now the point unlocks. Envy have 4 people on it, and they've already made some progress.
Fusion staying on the point right now.
They have to play more one-dimensional with the Envy team compared to this Fusion team, so we can see the positioning. It's much more dynamic from Fusion. Basically, Envy is all in a ball, and they're just looking to like make rotations. So they come over here, they force the monkey out. They come over here, they just try to like look for plays where they can all walk up together and kill things, and then potentially have members come up here but in flank. But if the supports are playing up here again, it's really hard for Envy to actually get on them unless they have both like flankers come up here, come up the pad, and then look to like air dive them while they're in the air, and then both like have the tanks come up as well. But there's not going to be a lot of like support follow up, and a lot of times they can back off, so the timing windows are going to be very difficult for them.
Fusion staying on the point right now. Bernard under a bit of pressure, has to back out a little bit early. Doesn't want to give up his mech. Envy though.
And there's a lot of resetting from Fusion where they just have the D.Va here, the Monkey here. Zachary, his translocator's in a spot where he can immediately come up to the high ground and be with his supports if there's like an Envy team looking to dive them. So, and like alt-wise, they're just outpacing them really. Bernard's not really doing a lot, but he's playing like basically to like mirror where they're standing so he can like come back and cover his team if he needs to, and he's the one playing the most safe. Outpaced on EMP. Beast Halo's definitely outpacing iShiny. The support ults are pretty negligible because they'll probably get them around the same times, but being able to build Blade and having him play more aggressively is very important to this comp.
Now you see iShiny. Heavy pressure on him. Zachary coming in from the flank. Envy though able to reheal, and you look at Fusion right now. Both their tanks low. Envy focusing on the tanks here. Shiny able to get out of pressure, and it's an early coalescence. Got to be coming in.
Does Bernard end up getting caught here?
Coming in from the flank. Envy though able to reheal, and you look at Fusion right now. Both their tanks low. Envy
Wondering where he is.
in from the flank. Envy though able to reheal.
Oh, he gets hacked is the problem. I see him. Okay.
Fusion right now. Both their tanks low. Envy focusing on the tanks here. Shiny able to get out of pressure, and it's an
I think Elk needed to walk up as well. So like once McGravy is hacked and like they've used their cooldown, so that like Envy's committing to like the ground battle right now. Fusion needs to realize that like Elk isn't in as much trouble and he can walk up. Him and Alarm can both walk up and play more aggressively on the high ground because they don't have much threat on them to actually get dove on the high ground. So an instance like this is where Bernard could like actually get saved.
Gotta be coming in from Crimzo, keeping Envy alive, pushing Fusion back, and finally it's too much to bear. Beast Halo falls, and Envy gonna be getting first control of the point.
That was also just a great individual hack coming out onto Zachary, who's getting really close with that EMP. Take a look at the difference between Buds and Zachary. Zachary was getting great poke off, but he just was not able to ever get into position with that EMP. And that was one of the problems he faced yesterday up against
A good
Buds.
part of this comp that Fusion has is they can Nanoblade, and Envy will not be able to like do much about it unless they have a Sombra EMP or something to help counter it, or he's in a position where they can play to counter the Ana or something. But
Nice early pickoff coming here from Fusion, where that's gonna set them up quite nicely. Meanwhile, Buds, so far, Alarm got spooked! That was pure fear! But because Zachary comes back and counterhacks Buds, that's a Sombra v Sombra, which is important here. Buds
they played to their win condition, which is super big, even though Fusion kind of flubs this, and he's really worried about
that's gonna set them up quite nicely.
getting EMP'd, of course. They're already executing the dive. Oh wait, what the how does Tailspin die alone? Does he get hacked?
Where he was getting consistently trailed by Nero or Dalton on that Sombra, and he wasn't able to play that Sombra versus Sombra. This is such a new meta. You have to play a different style of Sombra.
Okay, Tailspin definitely shouldn't be dying alone. Like, he should at least be, like, burning his cooldowns to live through that. That's another weakness to Envy. They're not able to play Tracer well, so that's actually not good at all. This fight's then very winnable, so Alarm's trance here is actually not that bad. Whereas as long as he stays alive here, it's actually really good. The Translocator went down in, like, a pretty poor position for Buds right now. where he doesn't have anywhere to go to. He's just going to port back, and he's basically in the same spot that he's going to be porting to. So he gets hacked, and then they're going to lose. So because Zachary won the 1v1, they basically just committed Trance to win a full team fight.
Arguably worth for getting the Transcendence, but perhaps not, because Fusion's going to be able to come back in here, get a very clean fight where they have way more numbers than the other team, and this is looking like Fusion.
Where Fusion's going to be able to hold now, the fights that they want, they're going to be holding the point. They're going to be playing defensively, which is exactly what they want with Zen. So he's ideally going to be able to get like a lot of healing from Harmony and then be able to like shoot orbs at people. So I think it's going to work well for him if he uses Trance first. Probably want to use Nano first, if anything, but
Locator going down, but all that time he was being wary of the Sombra, and he has to be. Now he might have been a little bit quick to pull the trigger on it, but better, to get that Transcendence off, get the kill, and then move on with the team fight.
All right, Envy, though, plenty of tools to come back in here, but they got to deal with Who Are You?
positioning here was good as well. I don't see where Alarm is. Okay, he's playing at the back, so it's like Alarm is playing here. Beast Halo's here. He's in a good position to be able to jump wherever, basically, which is really good. They're not playing to like take much poke, I imagine. Alarm's just playing in a position where he's able to throw orb to like either of these tanks if they take any poke damage, or Who Are You, who's playing out in the open as well. And then you can see Elk is in the back here. He's playing. Zachary's giving him the information. He's playing to Nano, Who Are You, and then they do exactly what they want to do, is basically go in on this cutoff group with a Nano Blade that they probably don't expect from Envy, given the positioning that Fusion's in. Fusion probably assumes they're like on the high ground or back here at this moment.
But better, to get that Transcendence off, get the kill, and then move on.
You can see Beast Halo's able to jump into the back line. Who Are You and Bernard are also making this rotation. And then they don't really need the Zen here. Like Elk's actually in like a position where he's not going to participate in the fight, but given like where they're executing and like who they're going to be killing here, it doesn't really matter too much.
Envy, though, plenty of tools to come back in here, but they got to deal with Who Are You? Gets Tailspin, one swipe is all it takes, and just easily makes mincemeat out of Envy. And let's say, it's
Like the fight was actually just instantly won.
team here anymore. Please hit me with a car.
Just put me out of my misery. Now we are once again getting to see the Apex Season 2 Who Are You on this Genji, getting those nanos. Sweet Blades just dicing through the members of Team Envy. But now take a look. Envy have a huge power lead. They've got 5 ultimates ready. There are no support ultimates up quite yet for Fusion University, but Zachary might be the great equalizer with this EMP. Buds is on the lurk though, and he's trying to go for that same play onto Alarm. Here's the dive though. He gets taken out. 3 members right on top of him.
Yeah, no EMP needed to get that early pick off, but you're going to see Buds holding on to the EMP here. The EMP came out from the Fusion side to not a whole lot of effect. I mean, I think it actually might have stripped a reasonable amount of barrier, but there's no fall through.
They're doing a good job stalling here from Fusion, so they lose Alarm and they actually lose a lot of their damage advantage from this because they no longer have Discord to basically focus down targets on his own.
Equalizer with this EMP.
So Buds is in a really good position scouting him and they're planning a dive on him.
Same play onto Alarm.
They basically kill him, he has no trance to use.
Here's the dive though. He gets taken out. 3 members right on top of him.
I don't know about this EMP. I'm sure it looks good for Zachary at this moment, but they don't have the follow-up that they would want on it. Like, they can't Discord a target and have all the tanks and Sombra focus it. They don't really want the sustained heal fight because it's going to be Lucio and they're probably going to pop beam. So, like, this EMP isn't that good unless he's playing to, like, bait out ults and then farm it later.
You're going to see Buds holding on to the EMP.
Getting like using EMP and then like forcing them to beat after is good if you want to like nanoblade the fight after, but I don't know if exactly that was the plan.
Fall through there. Envy's still fine. Tailspin goes for the side, gets the other support, and Envy slowly but surely is picking apart this fight. They do retake.
Now Fusion University, they try to fight back with it, and I don't quite agree with that EMP coming out from Zachary. There just wasn't enough there for Envy. They needed a lot more. But coming into this next fight, they're going to have, looks like the Transcendence up. But Buds, remember, he was able to hold on to his own, and now he's lurking in the back. But oh, Tailspin again gets taken out early by Zachary.
Oh, it's so bad from Tailspin. He doesn't know how to play Tracer. It's the problem. He walks into this area. You never walk into this area as Tracer. If you're playing Tracer against like this team that Fusion has, you want to be playing poke heavy, and you want to be playing tag people. This is too far right here. It's way too far. You're gonna get crossfired by it, and you're gonna take poke damage. You don't want to be taking poke damage whenever you have Moira and Lucio as your healers. You want to be playing like around here and never walk into this area. This is the dead zone for him.
And now he's lurking in the back, but oh, Tailspin again gets taken out early by Zachary.
Tailspin just too far deep, but Alarm and Elk both out of the fight. Buds and Shiny make the dive way more worth on the other side. There's no lifeline from Fusion University, and Envy's now one fight away from forcing a round 3.
And what a great place.
I think the problem with this is the EMP, sure, it does help them win a fight, but Fusion doesn't commit anything to it. And these fights where Crimzo's getting a lot of the healing, they're not going to be able to counter this Nano Blade because they won't have EMP, they won't have beat. So they basically have to plan around using Primal to try to counter it, but that doesn't always work given how good Who Are You is with the blades.
Now, speaking of delay, it's at 97%. Someone needs to make it on. It's Beast Halo jump on. He doesn't have a primal yet, but here is the Nano Blade out from Who Are You?
Who Are You's been the savior many times, has Crimzo looking for more, slices Eye Shiny down in the back, and this opens things up here for Fusion. They're working with an edge. Envy, of course, if they would win this fight, that would be it.
Like, I don't know if you can play anything else if you're Fire. Like, you probably just have to play Lucio. But the problem is, like, you're basically playing into your counter.
A lot of value, a lot of mileage for Fusion University, ZP, because these Nano Blades just win out the fight outright. Zachary has the EMP, Bernard's got his self-destruct, and Alarm has a
Yeah, the ult advantage for Fusion is always basically in their favor regardless of what they use. It's really hard to outpace. They basically have the trance now for a fight that is super winnable for them, where they can EMP and they can trance and they can play really aggressively with it.
As we're getting into 99 versus 99 territory.
Zachary, though, has the tools. He's going to drop the EMP in the back, immediately looking for the Lucio. Elk follows through on the other end, and Fusion makes the most of that EMP starting. They get the first 3 pickoffs, and as a result, it's going to be Fusion coming in, and now, just with a little bit more, taking map number 1.
Yeah, there's really not a lot Envy could do. I'd say Fusion played that as well as they probably could have. There's a few adjustments they should have made where there shouldn't have been an EMP for one of the fights that they're retaking, or they were losing, and then what was the other one?